The Silent Mind, Part 3. The Cessation of Thoughts. When one practices yoga and observes the thoughts, one sees that they come from outside, from universal nature, from the mental, vital, or subtle physical worlds, etc. The proper thing is then to stand back from these thoughts, voices, or suggestions, to reject them, or else control them, to make the mind free and quiet, and open only to the divine light, force, knowledge, and the presence of the divine. Your mistake has been to allow free play to these thoughts, voices, and suggestions, instead of rejecting, silencing, and controlling them. That is what you must now do. Aspire. Get into contact with the light and the true force. Reassert your will to reject these suggestions and voices. Do not take interest in these voices. Keep the mind quiet. All these thoughts and influences come really from outside, from universal nature. They create formations in us, or get habitual responses from the individual being. When they are rejected, they go back into the external universal nature, and if one becomes conscious, one can feel them coming from outside and trying to get a lodging inside again, or reawaken the habitual response. One has to reject them persistently, till no possibility of response remains any longer. This is hastened much if a certain inner calm, purity, and silence can be established, from which these things fall away without being able to touch it. The cessation of thought is the one thing which the believer in intellect, as the highest term of our evolution, cannot contemplate with equanimity. To master the fleeting randomness of thought by regulating the intellectual powers and thinking consecutively and clearly is an ideal he can understand. But to still this higher development of thought seems to him the negation of human activity, a reversion to the condition of the stone. Yet it is certain that it is only by the stilling of the lower that the higher gets full play. So long as the body and the vital desires are active, the mind is necessarily distracted, and it is only when the body is forgotten and the vital part consents to quietude that a man can concentrate himself in thought and follow undisturbed the consecutive development, whether of a train of reasoning or a train of inspiration. Not only is this so, but the higher faculties of the mind can only work at their best when the lower are quieted. Thinkers and philosophers do not have a silent mind. It is the active mind they have. Only, of course, they concentrate, so the common incoherent mentalizing stops, and the thoughts that rise or enter and shape themselves are coherently restricted to the subject or activity at hand. But that is quite a different matter from the whole mind falling silent. Knowledge comes through the mind, so the mind can always modify its expression unless it is entirely and absolutely still. The turmoil of mental, intellectual activity has to be silenced, like the vital activity of desire, in order that the calm and peace may be complete. Knowledge has to come, but from above. In this calm, the ordinary mental activities, like the ordinary vital activities, become surface movements with which the silent inner self is not connected. It is the liberation necessary in order that the true knowledge and the true life activity may replace or transform the activities of the ignorance. Yogic control can come in one of two ways, or by their combination. 1. To separate the witness soul in you from the movements of the mental, vital, and physical prakriti to which these things belong. Learn to look upon them, and in the end to feel them as not yourself, not a part of the inner or true being, but occurring on the surface, and to experience the inner being as the Purusha, eternally calm, silent, and immovable. This separation once done, learn by abhyasa to give the effective command of the Purusha to the movements of the Prakriti to cease, refusing the sanction to all that you wish to eliminate. The process is long and laborious, and the final perfection can only come by resolute and persevering practice. 2. To open yourself to the divine power and give up all into its hands, yourself only rejecting and refusing to sanction all that you feel to be false and contrary to truth and purity in you. Because man is a mental being, he naturally imagines that the mind is the one great leader and actor and creator, or the indispensable agent in the universe. But this is an error. Even for knowledge, mind is not the only or the greatest possible instrument, the one aspirant and discoverer. Mind is a clumsy interlude between nature's vast and precise subconscient action and the vaster, infallible, superconscient action of the Godhead. There is nothing the mind can do that cannot be done better in the mind's immobility and thought-free stillness. When the mind is still, then truth gets her chance to be heard in the purity of the silence. Truth cannot be attained by the mind's thought, but only by identity and silent vision. Truth lives in the calm, wordless light of the eternal spaces. She does not intervene in the noise and cackle of logical debate. Thought in the mind can at most be truth's brilliant and transparent garment. It is not even her body. Look through the robe, not at it, and you may see some hint of her form. There can be a thought body of truth, but that is the spontaneous supramental thought and word that leap fully formed out of the light, not any difficult mental counterfeit and patchwork. The supramental thought is not a means of arriving at truth, for truth in the supermind is self-found or self-existent, but a way of expressing her. It is an arrow from the light, not a bridge to reach it. Cease inwardly from thought and word. Be motionless within you. Look upward into the light and outward into the vast cosmic consciousness that is around you. Be more and more one with the brightness and the vastness. Then will truth dawn on you from above and flow in on you from all around you. But only if the mind is no less intense in its purity than its silence. Cessation of thought and other vibrations is the climax of the inner silence. When once one has got that, it is easier for the true knowledge to come from above in place of mental thought. Thought is not the giver of knowledge, but the mediator between the inconscient and the superconscient. It compels the world born from the inconscient to reach for a knowledge other than the instinctive vital or merely empirical, for the knowledge that itself exceeds thought. It calls for that superconscient knowledge and prepares the consciousness here to receive it. It rises itself into the higher realms, and even in disappearing into the supramental and ananda levels, is transformed into something that will bring down their powers into the silent self, which its cessation leaves behind it. The difference between a vacant mind and a calm mind is this: that when the mind is vacant, there is no thought, no conception, no mental action of any kind, except an essential perception of things without the formed idea. But in the calm mind, it is the substance of the mental being that is still, so still that nothing disturbs it. If thoughts or activities come, they do not rise at all out of the mind, but they come from outside and cross the mind as a flight of birds crosses the sky in a windless air. It passes, disturbs nothing, leaving no trace. Even if 1,000 images or the most violent events pass across it, the calm stillness remains, as if the very texture of the mind were a substance of eternal and indestructible peace. A mind that has achieved this calmness can begin to act, even incessantly and powerfully, but it will keep its fundamental stillness, originating nothing from itself, but receiving from above and giving it a mental form without adding anything of its own, calmly, dispassionately, though with the joy of the truth and the happy power and light of its passage.